Siberia, land of ice and snow and forests. Nine years ago, the bulldozers arrived here in the heart of Siberia to build a town, the world's first and only science city. A town's only industry is scientific research. A town, and beyond it in the forests, about a dozen research institutes. A town with its own shops and cinema. A town of 25,000 inhabitants, where nearly everyone's a scientist or hoping to become one. Even in the research institutes, the average age is under 30. This could be the United States or Canada, but it's the heart of Siberia, a new town called Akademgorodke, or Academic City. It's just 15 miles outside Novosibirsk, a very different place, Siberia's largest industrial city of over 1 million inhabitants and out of bounds to foreigners. It's a place of startling beauty. Forests of pine and silver birch fringe the main streets and stretch miles across the countryside. It's cold in winter, sometimes -40, and people are engaged round the clock to keep the streets open to traffic in a winter that lasts from September to April. Even when it snows miserably, it doesn't last too long. In these parts, they have 300 days sunshine a year, and in summer, the temperature's up in the 90s. It's a surprising place. I hadn't expected to find a modern hotel like this. It caters mainly for official guests and delegations visiting the academic city. It's modern in design, and modern in amenities. Just across the way there's a supermarket, the only one in the city. No brash notices or cut price offers here. This is Mrs. Golan-Polsky. She's a lecturer at the university, and so's her husband. They both earn about £25 a week. So together they make as much as a professor, around £2,500 or £3,000 a year. And like many others, they augment their income by giving additional lectures and writing articles, and sometimes books. And as income tax is low and rent, light, heat and transport account for less than 10% of their weekly budget, they're not doing so badly. It's the unskilled workers who have to think before they spend. The lowest paid earn only £6 a week, and that doesn't go far when a tin of pilchards costs 4 shillings. So most wives take a job and receive equal pay for equal work. The working week is 5.5 days, so shops stay open until 8 o'clock every night, and all day Sunday, the busiest day. At the official rate of exchange, 2 rubles 50 to the pound, some foodstuffs seem expensive. Sunflower oil, 7 shillings. Strawberry jam, 7 shillings. Peas, 2 and 2. Cherries, 4 shillings. Coffee, 10 shillings a quarter. Tinned fish, 3 shillings. Crisp bread, 2 shillings. Tinned pork, 10 and 3 a pound. Chocolate pudding, ½ a crown. And tea, 5 shillings for 2 ounces. As in most countries with a long and hard winter, fresh fruit and vegetables are a comparative luxury and not always available. This is another symptom of the affluent age, a fashion show held in a club which, as we shall see, turns into a dance hall later on. Downstairs, the club holds serious topical debates and discussions. This linen dress in grey and red costs £9. And this one in black nylon, £10. These model girls aren't professionals, they're all students of literature from Novosibirsk Teachers Training College 15 miles away. That white pleated cotton dress is £9. And so is this tweed suit. The man's suit, modelled by a student actor, costs a little over £17. Fashion shows are very popular here, but the women are still not smart. I suppose it's partly the need to keep warm, but the textiles are poor. That winter coat costs £18 and the hat 35 shillings. A lot of people make their own clothes, or you can buy your own material and get standard models run up inside a week for £2 or £3 in a state-owned workshop. And for the hot Siberian summer, this beach outfit costs a little over £4. The blouse and skirt are white, the swimsuit gaily striped green and yellow, and the shorts bright orange. If you're a working wife and have no grandmother living with you, you bring your children here to one of the 10 creches or kindergartens. The kindergartens are open from 8 in the morning to 8 at night and look after 2,000 children aged between 3 months and 7 years. The temperature today is minus 25 degrees centigrade. That's 45 degrees of frost on the Fahrenheit scale. The children are supervised as they play, and it's all free, except that parents pay 2/3 of the cost of meals. When children are 7, compulsory education begins. If they're bright, they may get into the most fashionable school here, Angliskaya Shkola, the English school, where some subjects, including geography, are taught in English.
My name is Andrei Araevsky. I live in Academy City. I'm 8. Teddy bear, look around. Teddy bear, touch the ground. Teddy bear, switch off the light. Teddy bear, say good night.
Mr. Pickwick found that his 3 companions had risen and were eagerly waiting for him to begin breakfast. They sat down to the meal, and ham, eggs, tea, and coffee began to disappear very fast indeed. "How shall we go to the manor farm?" said Mr. Pickwick. "We had better ask the waiter," said Mr. Tupman. They sent for the waiter, and he advised them to drive to the farm in a 4-wheel carriage.
Oh, the river is deep and wide. On
This extraordinary town was created by a team of Soviet scientists who chose its site on the wooded shores of the Ob Sea with the support of the central government and local authorities. They were led by academician Lavrentiev. What lay behind this vision of a city devoted to science?
Сегодня решение больших научных проблем и особенно проблем практических.
Today, when dealing with major scientific problems, and particularly practical ones, problems of utilizing the boundless riches of Siberia and the Far East, we need advanced science. In the organization of the new scientific center, carried out 8 years ago here in the heart of Siberia, we decided to solve important scientific problems, to explore these solutions as quickly as possible, and to carry out experiments in scientific methods of organization. One of the major experiments was to bring together the 3 apexes of the triangle: science, industry, and the training of future scientists. Nowadays, unfortunately, the 3 tend to draw apart. And here, in our new center, we have from the very beginning striven to weld them together. I must say that our experiments have produced very significant results.
That bang was caused by a jet of water propelled at twice the speed of sound from a kind of water gun. It's one of the projects at the Institute of Hydrodynamics. The jet from the gun is 1 inch wide, and each squirt contains half a gallon of water. When it hits a target at 1,500 miles an hour, the energy in the jet is converted to pressure to cause a disruptive effect like an explosion. One squirt, traveling at 10 times the speed of sound from a similar gun, burst clean through this lump of copper. They're going to fire the gun again, using a dozen ordinary builder's bricks as the target. All ready? Powerful weapon. It's going to be used quite soon here in Siberia to win coal and minerals and to break up rock. For that, you need repeated firing, so the gun is made to fire once every few seconds. This gun is an example of how scientists here are changing the face of Siberia. It used to be a forbidding place, a frozen wasteland 4,500 miles from side to side. From the Ural Mountains to the Pacific Ocean, as far as from London to Chicago. There's Novosibirsk, where the Trans-Siberian Railway crosses the river Ob. Siberia is a land of rivers flowing northwards through desolate marshland to the Arctic Ocean. A land of trees, it has more than 1/4 of the world's forests. A land of lakes, small lakes and large lakes like Lake Baikal, which contains as much water as the Baltic Sea or all the 5 Great Lakes of America rolled into one. It's the deepest lake in the world and filled with water so pure it might have been distilled. But in the past 15 years, ideas about Siberia have changed. What used to be thought of as a wasteland has turned out to be the Soviet Union's greatest treasure house, a land unbelievably rich in minerals. 15 years ago, geologists thought there was no oil here. Now the whole place seems to be floating on it. The lights show where successful oil wells have been drilled. 15 years ago, they knew there was coal, but not the 7.5 million tons that have now been discovered. Those lights represent 75 times the total amount of coal remaining in Britain. There are diamond fields which could be as rich as the South African ones, and gold and platinum too. Then there's iron ore, 150,000 million tons of it. That's enough to keep Britain in iron and steel for 2,000 years. And of course salt, for which Siberia has always been famous. Then there's tin and tungsten, and nickel, copper, lead and zinc. The whole country's made of minerals. Siberian oil is quite remarkable. Some of it is so light that you can put it straight into a motor car tank and drive away. Not exactly super, but still petrol. Then there's the coal, some of it in seams 300 feet thick. All sorts of coal, from shiny black stuff like anthracite to brown coal not far removed from the original wood. Close by the coal are the iron ore fields with rich veins of almost pure ore. This is diamond-bearing rock thrown up in a violent volcanic eruption. Normally the rock melts on its way to the surface, but just occasionally small pieces don't have time to melt. This is one of only 3 pieces ever found with a diamond in it, proving that it came from where diamonds are formed, 60 miles down, a piece of the Earth's inside. Of course, the geologists don't get specimens like this very often. Most of their work on the depth of the Earth's crust is done by geophysical methods, by listening to the echo of explosions bouncing from the different Earth layers. It's here that the mathematicians at the computer center help the geologist. There are 4 computers in the center to do these mathematical chores. This one is the most modern. These are Siberian foxes in captivity. They're being reared at an outstation of the Institute of Cytology and Genetics, about 200 miles south of Academic City, by Professor Balyaev and his colleagues. The idea is to study the genetic changes that occur as animals become domesticated. Originally, all the foxes were aggressive and untamable, like this one. The most docile animals are selected from each litter and used for breeding. Until after 10 generations, you have foxes like this one. As tame as a dog. Professor Balyaev has been doing this work for 10 years. It's based on classical Mendelian genetics and Darwin's theory of evolution. As the foxes become tame, other changes take place. The quality of their fur deteriorates, and there are signs that the tame animals may have 2 mating periods a year, whereas wild foxes mate only once a year. This is the Institute of Nuclear Physics back in the Academic City. It's here that perhaps the most important piece of experimental science is going on. This is what's called a colliding beam accelerator, the only one of its kind in the world, designed to hurl particles of matter at particles of antimatter. Just beneath my feet here, there's a kind of circular racetrack. It's called a storage ring, and in it, atomic particles are traveling at speeds very close to that of light. The particles of matter, or electrons, move round in one direction. the particles of antimatter, called positrons, move in the other direction. Occasionally, they collide, annihilate one another, and create a host of new particles, which is the whole purpose of the experiment. The story starts over there, where there's an accelerating machine called a synchrotron that speeds bunches of electrons to 186,000 miles a second. The bunches leave the synchrotron through a pipe. Some are diverted by a magnet along this pipe, and so into the storage ring. Other bunches go straight on to collide with a target made of tungsten. Here, electrons produce positrons, particles of antimatter. Only one positron is produced for every 10,000 electrons which hit this target. The positrons go straight into the storage ring, but they travel the other way round. The whole operation is controlled from here. The machine produces dangerous radiation, so special safety precautions have to be taken. The storage ring is now being filled with bunches of electrons and positrons. And there, inside the ring, a view of antimatter. As the positrons rush round the ring, they produce a glow of synchrotron radiation, which makes each pulse clearly visible. A sight that's never been seen before. Around this table are some of the top scientists in the Soviet Union. They control all the science done by 40,000 scientists throughout Siberia. This is the presidium of the Siberian branch of the Academy of Sciences at its weekly Friday meeting. At their head is academician Lavrentiev, 66 years old and very much the father figure. When he came here 9 years ago, there was only one corresponding member of the Academy in the whole of Siberia. Today, in Academic City alone, there are 36, and what's more, 10 academicians out of a total of 150 in the Soviet Union. That's academician Trofimuk, head of the Institute of Geology, and one of the people who discovered Siberian oil. Academician Sobolev, head of the Institute of Mathematics. He's been a full member of the Academy of Sciences since he was 30. On the left, academician Budka, head of the Institute of Nuclear Physics, and with him, corresponding member Voroshtov, director of the Institute of Organic Chemistry. Academician Voivodsky, physical chemist and until recently a top-class basketball player and an outstanding athlete. Gorbachev, here's a chief scientific secretary and a coal expert. That's academician Maltsev with the shaved head. He's a mathematician. Corresponding member Boreshkev, the director of the Institute of Catalysis, the only one in the Soviet Union. He likes to spend his Sundays fishing. And corresponding member Belyaev, head of the Institute of Cytology and Genetics, the foxman, son of a peasant from central Russia, a footballer, music lover, and doodler. Every Sunday, the fishermen come here to sit for 6 hours or more on the frozen surface of the Sea of Ob. The temperature, minus 20 degrees centigrade today, minus 40 degrees some days. And the prize, not very large. If you don't hang your catch up, it freezes solid to the ice. There are other ways of spending your Sunday on the lake. This is a meeting of the Walrus Club. Some members meet here every day and go through this ritual. And the temperature at the moment is minus 25 degrees centigrade. An odd kind of enjoyment, but all sorts of people seem to like it. They say hundreds go in on a New Year's Eve, chemists and physicists and mathematicians. The only notable exceptions are the biologists. Maybe they know too much about it. The girl is a telephone operator at the Institute of Nuclear Physics.
Нет, здесь слишком глубоко для меня. Ну так я тоже, Адольф Иванович, смогу залезть и вылезть. Давай залезь. Потом напишешь. Нет, здесь слишком глубоко для меня. Плавать не могу. Если бы так, то было. А можно держаться?
Only the adventuresome try that sport. But nearly everyone learns how to ski, especially the youngsters. It's all part of the vision of Lavrentiev, a man who loves young people and who saw, as part of his science city, a thriving university. Today there are just over 3,000 students. By 1970 they plan to have 5,000. With Moscow and Leningrad, it's one of the 3 most difficult universities in the Soviet Union to enter. The principal of Manchester College of Science and Technology, Lord Bowden, came out to Siberia to compare university education here with that in Britain.
These students are tinkering with electrical measuring equipment and learning how to use it. All the students in the university come to classes like these. As it happens, these students are all first-year physicists, but next door there are classes of biologists and chemists, all of whom are таking the same classes.
Падение напряжения начнет увеличиться еще сюда больше. Светло, эта лампа снова будет подзапираться. И до тех пор, пока она не будет. Вот теперь мы дошли до того момента, когда лампа LED заперта. Теперь давайте будем разбирать, что получится, как должен он сработать.
Modern science is becoming more and more dependent upon precise methods of measurement and on mathematical calculations which are based on measurement.
Генератор, который сам работает и дает импульсы, независимо от внешнего источника.
All the courses in this university depend upon mathematics, and I understand that no students can come here unless they've shown in their entrance examination that they're good mathematicians. Even these biologists have had to pass a stiff examination in mathematics. More than half the students in chemistry and biology are girls, by the way. The students in this university have to work very hard. They come to classes 6 days a week, and they're here for 42 weeks every year. English students have nearly 6 months vacation a year. These students have only 6 or 8 weeks. In fact, their 5-year course is 2.5 times as long as an average English 3-year course. Students do experiments like these in most university biology labs, but these biologists have to do a lot of difficult mathematics as well as their biology.
В том случае, когда нормальное распределение имеет параметр А равный нулю, график его выглядит...
This particular lecture is on the distribution functions of random variables.
Колоколообразная функция с максимумом, достигаемым в точке x равная нулю. Но нас сейчас будет интересовать тот факт, что нормальное распределение симметрично относительно начала координат. Из этого сразу следует, что вероятность того, что случайная величина, распределенная по нормальному...
Everyone has to learn English.
By Professor Rosapopov. As it has penetrated ever deeper into the secrets of nature, Soviet science has brought to light remarkable processes which take place in the living organism on the borderline between life and death. Investigation of these processes has produced a new method of treatment by tissue preparations, which offers wide possibilities to medical practice. The founder of this method is the famous Soviet scientist, academician Vladimir Petrovich Filatov.
Now, volume search. What is academician Vladimir Petrovich Filatov famous of?
Vladimir Petrovich Filatov is a famous Soviet scientist, and he offered new method of treatment by tissue preparations.
Well, thank you. Tissue preparations. Repeat it, please.
Tissue preparation.
Tissue?
Tissue preparation.
Yes. Well, good.
Everything you've seen so far is very much like you'd find in most Western universities. But this university is unusual because the students go and work in the research institutes for the last 2 years of their 5-year course. This girl is investigating the structure of a complex organic molecule. She's using an electron spin resonance machine. There's no such thing as a bachelor's degree in Russia. All the students have to write a thesis before they graduate, and I think it's fair to say that they all take the equivalent of an English degree of Master of Science. The students come here from all parts of the Soviet Union, so they all have to live in special university hostels in the academic city. The university charges no tuition fees, and 80% of the students get a maintenance grant of 35 rubles a month. That is to say, about £15 a month. The other 20% who don't get a grant come from families whose combined average monthly income is more than 80 rubles a head. In other words, they have a means test here just like ours in England. If students do badly in examinations, their grants may be reduced. If they do well, they usually get a bonus. Academician Vovodsky is the acting rector of the university. I talked to him in his house and asked him why they place so much emphasis on mathematics when they're selecting their students.
It doesn't mean usual school mathematics of 2 + 2 giving 4 or textbook algebra. It means mathematical problems that need a logical way of approach to questions from different sides of the mathematics. And this possibility of a young boy or girl to compare and to work together on these different problems at once and solve the problem that is given to him is something like a sort of logical test, if you want, or intelligence test. And we think with the possibility of having this mathematical intelligence test plus the want of the given girl or a given boy to work in biology or in chemistry or in physics ensures the possibility of his being in future a real good scientist. Well, we even made an experiment to find out whether this is really true in the case of chemistry, because we had some years ago at the foundation of this university a discussion of whether the entrance in chemistry should depend upon an examination in mathematics or an examination in chemistry itself. Well, we gave them a very difficult mathematical written examination. Half of them fell out. We took 100 out of those who fell out, and we have a talk with them, and we found that none of them had very interesting knowledge in chemistry that would give us the possibility of saying that he is a real good chemist and he doesn't know mathematics.
This passion for mathematics is being cultivated in an unusual school in Academic City. It's a boarding school which each year recruits the ablest boys and girls from the whole of the Soviet Union. It specializes in teaching physics, chemistry, and mathematics. The pupils are chosen by a nationwide competition called a Mathematical Olympiad. As many as 10,000 children take part each year. They have to solve problems which are published in newspapers and sent to schools all over Russia. The 1,000 best boys and girls are invited to a camp here during the summer. During their month's stay, they go to lectures, visit research institutes, and have discussions with top scientists. Then they take another exam, and the best are offered places at the school. They come when they're 14 or 15 and get a general education with the accent very much on science. Boys outnumber girls by about 7 to 1. Some of the classes are taken by scientists from the university and the institutes. This is academician Sobolev talking about Kepler's laws of planetary motion and differential calculus.
Для того, чтобы разобраться в физическом явлении, очень сложном, была создана специальная математическая теория, было создано дифференциальное интегральное исчисление. Впоследствии история...
Classroom lessons only take up 28 hours a week, but the children are encouraged to work on their own. After 3 years, they leave the school and most of them pass the university entrance exams. It's a kind of forcing house for geniuses. This is the Novosibirsk State Symphony Orchestra, one of the best in Siberia. It visits Academic City about 30 times a year. Concerts take place in the Moscow Club. Mainly it's just a cinema. Most of the films are Russian, but 1 in 3 is foreign, and a fair sprinkling are English or American. I even saw It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. 15 miles away in Novosibirsk, they have the largest opera house in the Soviet Union. Back in Academic City, they held the first Siberian Jazz Festival a few weeks ago, and the joint winner was the orchestra from the club under the Integral.
This academic city was planned and built by men who were passionately convinced that the future of Siberia, the future of Russia, and in fact the future of the whole world will depend on science and education. In less than a decade, they've created something which will change the face of a continent and affect the lives of all its inhabitants. It may even affect the lives of every one of us. And they've done it here, in the heart of these impenetrable forests in the very middle of Siberia. The scientists who work here don't go prospecting for oil and minerals themselves, nor do they start new industries themselves. But they do educate people to do these things. And furthermore, they show them where to look for minerals, and they help them to found their new industries. They claim that this city has already paid for itself 3 times over, and the best is yet to come. The city isn't finished yet. It's still being built, right round the clock throughout the year. At this moment, there are more than 40 degrees of frost, but labourers are pouring specially mixed concrete, which has been doped with antifreeze. It arrives on the site steaming hot, and it has to be poured straight away. When this building's finished in a few weeks' time, it will be centrally heated from the boiler house, which supplies the whole of this city, through a steam main several miles long. The Russians have put their research institutes and their universities side by side. The young people who are fortunate enough to study here are learning all the time from some of the very best scientists in Russia. There are 100 times as many students in other parts of Siberia as there are in this academic city. And there are research institutes in other cities all over Siberia. But no other research laboratories are so lavishly equipped, and nowhere else are the students so carefully selected or so ruthlessly examined. It's cost £100 million so far, or as much as we spent on all the universities in Great Britain put together in 1963. Education and science are in a ferment of change all over the world. This whole city is an experiment on the grand scale. It's easy to see why the Russians are so proud of it. They're determined to fit themselves and their young people for life in the second half of the 20th century.
Но играет роль тут главное